Hey, welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, buddy.
It's funny that we started this year where I was in the Caribbean having a great time, enjoying the sun, and now we end the year with you doing that.
I'm not in the Caribbean though. I'm on the other side.
Close enough.
It's still hot. It's cold as fuck in Canada, and I am glad that I am somewhere tropical and warm and drinking tequila. So there we go.
I'm jealous, and because Billy's on the show, drinking, so we're going to pretend it's enjoying some tequilas. So yes, we've got Billy Stevens back on the show. He's also brought a friend with him. I know it's surprising Billy has friends. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, he's brought Landon Brewer with him as well. Both of these guys have so much experience. They've been for a long, long time, coming from both sides of it too. Landon services with Ken Goodrich and Gettle, and he's done some amazing things.
Oh wait, I think Evan is actually frozen for once, and it wasn't me. We were having some technical difficulties. Billy or Landon, can you wave? We're good. Was it Evan that was lagging, or was it just Evan? Okay, so Evan was the only one that was lagging. It's funny because I'm in Mexico, and I thought it would have been the Mexican internet that is lagged. So, but apparently it is Evan. So he was talking about Billy and Landon and getting all choppy. We're pretty excited to have these guys on the show. Two powerhouses within the industry. I know Landon doesn't make a lot of public appearances, so we're very honored to have him on the podcast. Somebody that I've wanted on for quite some time. And of course, everybody knows Billy Stevens with Sera. We're going to get into a lot of different things today, and a lot of the accounting background, business structure, but really the mindset and the industry change. We're coming up to a lot of different things within the industry. We've got Tier 2 coming out. We've got a potential recession coming down the lines. We've got all these things, and it's going to be absolutely phenomenal to dive in and pick some of the sharpest minds within the industry. So you're going to want to buckle up. And of course, if you haven't heard of we can't do our show really without our sponsors. One is SeraSystems, obviously with Billy and what he does. What they do in terms of the pillars that they do, and also the thing that they have doing, and their Sera users on average have an increase of 52% revenue within the first 6 months, while doubling their profits just by making a switch to SeraSystems. So definitely take a look at that. Of course, the other one is the Profit Rocket Blueprint. When you guys have the CRM in place, now you want to be able to put the operations into it, and that's what the Profit Rocket Blueprint does for you. With Victor and what he has going on, and hones in your operational side of things. It just so happens that Victor and Profit Rocket also use SeraSystems. So if you want to get in touch with Sera, obviously reach out to that. It is sera.tech. And the other one is callprofitrocket.com. Well, I'm excited. So let's dive in. Let's get to it. And I'm going to queue up a video. So we'll be back with Landon and Billy right quickly.
Four, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
All right, that is not normally my forte, doing an intro to the show. But Evan's internet cut out on him. I thought it was just me. So Billy, Landon, welcome to the show. Pleasure having you guys on, and excited to dive in. Well, I know that we're on a tight time limit here today. So Landon, what's your story? How'd you get started?
Well, thanks for having me. So, the usual story of people in our space, our industry. I started, behind my dad, working hard on the computer. I would say I am like, I'm going to offend probably half your listeners. I would definitely offend them if I pretended to be technically competent, because I'm, as some of my former partners would always tell me, I'm technically incompetent. So I'm an accountant by trade and got in this thing like 20 some odd years ago. Became an early employee of a company that became Clockwork Home Services. We built some affinity groups, some franchises. 1 Hour Air Conditioning is the air conditioning franchise, and then I ran the half of the company that did consulting for independent contractors. So guys like Billy, or the people that eventually became my partners after I left there, like Ken Goodrich, and some of these folks. I had all these several thousand contracting clients, and I reached out to them. I'm like, you guys are pretty dumb and you're making a lot of money. I'm going to join. So we did that, and sold some businesses to American Residential Services. I moved out to the West Coast, took over kind of the West Coast operations for ARS Rescue Router, finished running out there, and then went back and forth a little bit after that was over, and we got the band back together eventually, and then acquired Gettle Air Conditioning from ARS, built that, sold majority stake in that about 4 years ago, and then just did another recapitalization or sale in February, and we got the richest valuation ever. So I said, fuck it, I'm out, and retired temporarily. And then since then, I've been, just kind of all over the industry, making investments, helping businesses, doing some consulting, built Einstein Prime, which is a system that we're using to platform other companies to get maximum value when they exit, all over the place. So that's my story.
Nice. And it's a couple things jumped out at me on that one is the technically incompetent side of things. Because I'm always fascinated having conversations with people that have been in the industry that don't have the technical expertise. I, for one, will be the first person to admit that I've never been in the HVAC industry. I do the marketing side of things. I understand the marketing. I understand the operational part of things for our business. But, when you look at operations, it's the same across a lot of different businesses. It's putting in your goods down procedures. So to come in with that, to be able to really grow a business is fascinating. But the other part, and I kind of want to explore this a little bit, is the dumb and making money. And it's funny because, and I'm not saying it's funny, it's sad because when you think about the trade school and you think about going to trades lease here in Canada, they don't have a lot of the business expertise and the business education. So guys that are running their truck and they're in their business and they say, great, I'm going to go start my own business because I see the owner making all this money, but they don't know actually what goes into making it very successful. So I really want to unpack that. Billy, did you want to add anything to Landon's intro? A little snippet of who you are, or do you want to get right into it?
Oh, I thought you wanted me to embellish some more about him. I didn't.
You can
Absolutely.
go ahead and do that. Feel free. Feel free.
You want to know how I got in the industry as well?
Well, you can say whatever you want. Yeah. Did you want to add anything to it? Are you good? Everybody knows.
Mine's pretty simple. My plumber died. You can't get any.
Right.
All of a sudden I didn't have a plumber, and next thing I know, I owned a plumbing company. Without any money in my pocket, I was able to pull it off, and that's really how I started going. My dad had a plumbing company off and on throughout my times growing up, and every downturn in the economy, he lost the company and would start over again when it started picking up again. So I wanted nothing to do with it, and was working for a home builder, and unfortunately my plumber passed away, and I couldn't find another plumber to take his place. He had a nice little business, and spoke with the widow and was able to purchase it from her. And then I 100x that company in about 10, 11 years. And back in the 90s, back when we didn't have all these cool softwares that help us do things, and started in one of the first PE firms, the platform company for one of the first PE firm to enter the space, and started doing acquisitions, and then took some time off like Landon, I retired very short time, maybe a little bit longer than he did. I think I made him work the next day. So get up, you got to go to work. What are you doing? Yeah, so that's my story, and just the low level. I mean, I didn't have an accounting background. I learned how to count while I owned the company. Didn't even know anything about financial statements or anything when I started, and so to this day, my blessing was I had a banker that took a risk on me, and he goes, "But you're going to be in here every month, and we're going to read these financials, and you're going to understand how a business operates." And that was the reason why I'm here today, is because he invested his time in me to do this from the very beginning, and I got an understand of how I could affect my business from a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet. Well, and that was the catalyst of the success that I experienced going forward.
Well, Billy was a big motivator for me. I'm like, man, if this guy can do it, shit, I can. Anyone can do it. but
that's the alcohol talk.
Going back to your question though, like you've heard the adage, right? The A students work for the B.
Yep.
A students work for the B students, B students work for the C students, right? Yep. Billy's probably like at least a D based on how rich he is, but that's the truth, right? It's like if the world worked the way that you're told it works, Billy works for me. That ain't happening, right? So that's what it takes. It takes like people that have the grit, right, to go out there, get it done. Some people just got like, if you believe in the education system, it's like, well, shit, I would never do that. Well, that's why he made $100 million and I didn't, right? So usually it's just like the grit, the tenacity, and the ability to just go out, work with hands, get it done. And so that's why I love and respect everybody in our industry, because it's like everybody's such a salt of the earth, like awesome human being for the most part. There's some shitbags,
like every place, right? Yeah.
but for the most part, just like the greatest human being ever are in this industry.
Right. Well, and I liken it to blue collar versus white collar. And I've said this, like, I live in Calgary. I used to live in a city called Edmonton. Edmonton is a very blue collar city. Calgary is a very white collar city. And I always found the people of Edmonton were a lot nicer and a lot, down to earth versus the white collar. And there's no disrespect either way to blue collar, white collar by any stretch of the imagination. It's just you work hard and you get it done.
Here's what's funny though, is that between the two cities, Thad lives down in the white collar city and I'm up in the blue collar city. So I've said for a long time that if you could transplant the people from Edmonton to the city of Calgary, you'd have a better city, because Edmonton's just a flat wasteland, in my opinion. Calgary, at least you get some hills and you can see the mountains. But there you go. You guys give it to each other. We give it to each other as well. Billy, one thing that you said that we're coming into what a lot of people have pegged, an economic downturn, a recession, for lack of a better words. I don't really like that word. I think it's greasy and gross. And you can make your own your own luck, in my opinion, if you work hard and you have that blue collar determination. Now, there's always going to be recessionary factors, and some businesses are going to be affected by it, some aren't, etc., whatever. Every downturn, he lost the company. That was one word that you said. Coming into 2023, and this question goes for both of you guys, what can businesses do now to protect and insulate themselves from a potential recession?
Great. So doing something now, hopefully it's not too late. Hopefully you started preparing prior to now, because I feel like it's already affecting some companies. We're starting to see a lot less people buying boxes now, and they're opting for a repair or nothing at all. I'm seeing a lot of that from some folks, in the industry through the groups and stuff. And so really and truly, what I've always said on this show, you got to prepare in advance. You work your butt off in the good times to prepare for the bad times, because there's a saying that says you get rich in the good times, but you get wealthy in the bad times. Mm-hmm. And I believe that so much, because I created more wealth for myself during 07, 08, and 09 than I did in all those other years where it was good times. And that's really the secret, in my opinion, is putting yourself in a position to take advantage of the opportunities that come at you during the downturn from the folks that didn't take care of that opportunity. And unfortunately, a lot of people can't save enough money because they're not making enough money in the business, and they can't put enough money behind them to propel them to the next level, or maybe they can't buy something that would really help their company during that downturn because they don't have the cash on hand or the ability to get credit. And so you're always preparing for the downturn. I look forward to them because I know that during the good times, we can make money. That's great, but can you keep it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. Can you keep it? And so when I have money to do things during the downturn is when I do my best. I was able to get involved in this PE firm, not because of desperation or anything. We did it we started having this conversation in 2010. We still were in the middle of it. And, they had never seen a business make so much money, especially in 2010, right? When this was going on. And that's what led to us forming this group and getting going. And I caution everybody on that. I think that you should have a business that is run very efficiently, and you should have memberships. I know there's a lot of, we know the negativity about memberships. We hear it. They don't understand what a membership is. They think a membership is just another name for a service agreement, and they're two totally different things. You can still have service agreements, but you can have memberships as well. And memberships are just like a gym membership, and it gets you that stickiness that you need from that customer to call you first and not forget who you are, so they can call you and you can do work with them. BillyGo has sold over 5,000 memberships in the 4 years we've been in existence, and that is keeping us extremely busy right now. We're not slowing down any. We got work. We got work every day, and that's because we have prepared for the slow time, right? Every year we prepare for the slow time during the good time, summer. And this is how you have to do it as well. On this every decade, we're going to have this slowdown every decade. Every decade, you're going to have a recession. That is the way the economy, the capitalism works. Capitalism is a feeding frenzy when it's going up, and then it can only go up so far, and then it's got to crash back down so that you can reset and then do another feeding frenzy. That is just the nature of the beast. And so knowing and understanding that's how we prepare our businesses and how we help our customers with the efficiencies in getting those memberships and getting those margins fixed that they need to fix in their businesses with really good reporting and the numbers that matter, and not all these numbers that don't really matter.
Landon, do you want to add anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I like your take on that. What did you say? Like, I got, made some money, or I got rich when times were good, and then became very wealthy when times got hard.
Yeah.
What I would add to that is, like, you got to know where you're at and where you're trending towards, right? You always got to know that. Well, like, clearly we were in like this heyday, like we've been in this renaissance time in our space for the last several years, right? All this PE, like, money's been cheap. So knowing that we were in this time, the best thing to do is, like, all right, people get fat and happy, like, money's cheap, everything is, like, readily available to you. Like, there's no reason that you didn't go out and borrow to your max extent, acquire, that's what PE did, right? They made hay. Well, like, as we sold these businesses, the people got really wealthy. The real people who got wealthy were not even us. Yes, we've made more money than ever in our industry, and made lots of millionaire. Like, I probably have 200 friends that became millionaires in the last couple of years selling air conditioning and plumbing businesses, right?
Yep.
But and I think I was counting this the other day. I had like 7 people that worked for me started businesses and became millionaires in that time. So, like, you make hay, right? But in the opposite time, a recessionary time, when valuations going down, like, things are inflation, recession, all the stuff that's happening, you got to know where you're going, where it's trending, and you just say, wow, you got all these fat and happy businesses out here, and you got all this bloated PE that half of them don't know how to run the business. Like, there's going to be some massive opportunity coming up in the future, and it's like, okay, well, it's time to get lean and mean. The lean and mean companies are going to win over the fat and happy companies. And the operators that really know what the hell they're doing and understand the KPIs and the levers and the pulleys of the business, they are going to really enrich themselves in the next 5 years in the midst of this recession. And in the midst of this inflation, it's like all of this recession inflation is this fear that's being put out there. And your ability to just look past that, be strategic, and say, I'm calm in the midst of this storm. I'm going to capitalize. That's what's going to make you wealthy.
Right.
I like that. In terms of like, and one of the things that I wanted to get, like, okay, so you talked about a little bit of the businesses being, fat and happy, but also, where you're at and where you're trending to. What are some of the things that somebody needs to look at in order to be able to say, okay, well, I see this opportunity potentially coming for it. I want to get my own personal business house in order. What should I be looking at? What should I be doing now to be able to trend the right way?
Who do you want me to take it? Billy, you
Don't
want to
matter.
take it?
Go ahead, Landon. Go ahead, Landon.
So like to combat some of the like potential downfalls of like this, inflationary environment, recessionary environment, like one, you got to have a really solid control in your costs. Like you have to understand like your cost basis on equipment, like SEER 2 is coming out, and like you have to understand this really well and understand what your margin requirements are. And so like all of this bloated and inflated stuff that you may have as you've scaled your business in this good time, now you got to make sure that you got like a lean and mean environment where it's like, okay, do I need to have all these expenses that I have? For every dollar I cut, it's like adding $2 of sales. Do I need that? Right? Did I lose you?
I'm still here.
Nope.
We're still good.
He's going back. Okay.
I think
Evan
Evan's a little leggy, so yeah. I'm still good. So
like you have all these, you got all that stuff, and then you say, all right, so if I can't sell $15,000 air conditioners anymore, what am I going to sell? Right? If I can't get people financed, like in the worst case scenario, in doomsday scenario, what do? Well, I build repair packages. I build restoration, rejuvenate. Like I build packages that are going to get this thing back up to factory fresh, and I'm going to make them at the margin that maybe a higher gross margin, higher percentage that is going to enable me to make pretty significant profit on those jobs. And then I'm going to say, you know what? When this changes in the next year, I'm going to apply 100% of it, 80% of it, whatever, to a replacement opportunity. And so we're just pushing out a little further. We weathered the storm. Like you got to have backup plans for all of that stuff. You got to have backup plans for your financing. Start selling services that you didn't sell before. Like really dial down on IAQ if you're an air conditioning, like airflow. Focus on the thing that matters most that nobody focuses on, not the boxes that the OEMs tell you to focus on, right? Focus on the stuff that matters to the customers that you can explain and be different with. Like offer different financing. Like there are a million different ways to do this, but you have to sit down and write out a plan for it. Otherwise, you're just going to be subject to whatever happens. Like everything becomes cheaper too. So as these fat and happy companies, people that didn't really watch their metrics start to fade away, they can't pay their bills. Like not only is the acquisition opportunity for you, but now no one's buying the advertising. Now you maybe have a stronger position to negotiate with the OEMs. Now, like squeeze the money out of that to make your margin.
Well, and on top of that, you've got the greatest opportunity for hiring.
Yep.
Other companies are going out of business. Like this is your chance to find that top talent that you couldn't 2 years ago when everyone was hiring as fast as they possibly could because of COVID and the mass influx of sales that came with that. So how do you set yourself up on top of all of that financially to now be able to acquire the top talent that exists in your market and become attractive to them?
Well, obviously everything starts with culture, right?
Yeah.
And they got to want to work for you, and you got to have great culture, and great culture comes from having money in the bank because you're still festive and you're not in there fretting. And when you're in there nervous and worried about making payroll, your employees can feel that. You don't even have to tell them. They can smell it. They can feel it. And when you're walking around, patting them on the back and being happy about, paying them more money, keeping them busy when no one else is busy, and that culture of success is still permeating throughout the building, that's how you keep moving forward. You can't fake it. They're going to pick up on it. You can't hide that despair, that stress that you're going through if you're not prepared. And this is when you get those folks and you get them to move over to your company and you start growing your company. You double down on hiring the best techs during this time. You're going to start seeing them. They're going to start wandering around and they're going to start looking, and you really need to think about it, but you need to give them something to do. And that goes back to, I keep saying this is having a whole bunch of memberships to go keep them busy, because I have, in Dallas, Fort Worth, for BillyGo in particular, there's 2.2 air conditioners on the average in every house here. And so one membership is 2.2 air conditioners. When you have 5,000 of them, 5,000 memberships, that's 11,000 air conditioners. That's 33,000 pieces of equipment, right? It's 33,000, it's 11,000 condensers, 11,000 coils, and 11,000 furnaces. That's 33,000 pieces of equipment that we have an opportunity to see, touch, feel, refurbish, replace, repair. And that is the key. And so if you can create this work when everyone else is struggling to create the work, you're going to get the best technicians. And then when we get to summer happens, it doesn't matter if you don't have much money. You're going to get your air conditioner fixed before you make your car payment. You're going to, you know what I mean? You're going to do whatever it takes to get that AC. So we solve the problem every summer, but then we're brought back in the same rut every winter. And then you add recession, inflation, all this to it. It makes it even worse. And so what we do a lot here, Landon and I visit, we visit every week, and we talk a lot about the business of our businesses, and down to the nuts and bolts of the business itself, of how to run a successful business. And it's very important that you understand that you have to be very aggressive when everyone's fearful, and fearful when everyone's aggressive. That always comes back to that. And don't do what everyone else has done. So this inflation, raising interest rates and all this stuff, that's fear that's being produced to get you to slow down so they can stop this runaway issue of everything costing so much money, so they can do the reset. And then from that fear, we start gaining confidence. And then you just see it start spiraling up again, because as in America, we are very aggressive on going forward when we feel like it's going to be good to go forward again.
Right.
And so it's the few people that really prepare themselves for the bad times that really are able to grow their businesses quickly and financially set them up for, generations if they do it right.
Well, hey, Billy, like, I'm not going to let that go. Like, what are they in Canada then?
We just sit there and say sorry and have some beer and
we're very polite. We're very polite. I want to ask a question, Evan, before you get into that. Maybe we have the same one, but you said you guys chat every week about the business of our business. And if I were a fly on the wall and I'm listening to that conversation, what are you guys, you don't have to go into like deep dive details about it on it, but like, I'm curious, what do you guys talk about every single week in terms of the business of our business?
It's all over the place. I think, we
really
talk
is.
about pain points that people experience. We talk about, what opportunities ahead, where the industry is going. Like, like when I left, like I called up Billy and I'm like, one of the things that I want to do in my, post-retirement phase is like, I want to, even though this industry has been amazing and I love this model and it's been really great to me, I'm like, I'd love to be the disruptor in it, right? Like, how do I be the guy that takes all the way that the PE world works today, where everything's based on a multiple of earnings and it's flipped in a couple of years from now, and it's like you're just building this multiple of earnings model. I'm like, how do we take it and make it a SaaS model where it's based on annual recurring revenue, right? So what are the components of that? Well, you need several things, like Billy was talking about with the memberships, right? You need to have an offering that's like, if you're a member of our club, it's like everything I do, my haircut, my gym membership, like everything is, my Netflix is a monthly recurring expense. As long as I'm paying a paying member, I get all the benefits of that. There's no reason why our industry hasn't shifted to that like every other industry, and it will, absolutely will. I want to be the guy that does it. And, if you're the PE guy left holding the bag, sorry. But at the end of the day, the customer wants to spend, $118 a month to make sure they never have to pay for repairs, never have to be inconvenienced by a replacement that costs $12,000 out of nowhere, never has to worry about changing their filters or maintenance. like just pay and be taken care of, right? So the elements of that, there might be warranty, they might be the financing piece of it, they might be relationships with the OEM, they might be a monitoring serve. Like there's certain elements of like how do we get there and what are the steps. So that's the kind of the stuff that we discuss, and he basically takes all my ideas and takes them back to Sera and tries to get it there before I have a shot at getting it.
Steal from the best with pride.
I was about to say the exact same sentence.
Yeah, I was definitely gonna, say that, yeah, he's come up with every one of these ideas.
Yep.
And so when you're talking about that 118 a month, are you talking about leasing? Is that, because that's a big thing in Canada, is leasing equipment, both like water heaters, especially right now, is huge up here, but definitely getting into the ACs and furnaces as well.
Yes. So I think I don't think it's an overnight shift. I don't think we go from what we're doing now to everyone does that. Just
of course,
economically, it's not possible because you have the cost of, a significant cost structure to overcome. Right.
Correct.
But if you look at, software companies, right, it's like they have a burn rate, and like they would give me anxiety. I could never do what Billy's doing because, number one, I don't have that bankroll, but if you're going to do this and you're going to do it when somebody replaces an air conditioner, you got to buy the air conditioner, you got to buy all the materials and equipment, you got to pay for the labor, you have to do all of that stuff, and you're just charging somebody $118 or whatever that number might be. It's going to be probably 4 or 5 years before you actually recapture, just get the break even. So you have to have somebody to fund at scale. That's very expensive, right? So you got to have somebody funnel. That's more like a VC play. But when you get to a certain threshold, it's like, man, every month, forever, based on not even beyond the life of the system. Once I've recaptured my investment, now every one of those dollars is worth 50. Like in a traditional value, like someone's going to figure out how to do that and just knock our industry on its head, And so, yes, I think leasing is an intermediary step before it's just kind of, we figure out a way to finance the purchase of the stuff, and then we just offset it.
Right. I love it. One of the things I want to get back to, because both of you guys have been through downturns in the economy. You've been through it as operators, running the company, multiple companies in both your cases as well. What if you had to boil it down to 3 or 4 principles? Because obviously what you did, 2008, I guess, is 14 years ago now. What you did 14 years ago is not the same thing that you're going to do today, right? Technology is different, people are different, but there's core principles behind what you did that if you applied today, you would win. So if you boiled it down to 3 to 5 principles, what would they be for a business to succeed through this recession?
Well, I use my past as a playbook as well, right? Because even though we're in a different era than we were 10, 20 years ago, we didn't have Google, we didn't have Facebook. Email was literally invented while I was in the middle of running a business, like this new thing, email, that was basically Facebook for us, because it allowed us to communicate in a way we've never been able to communicate before. Mm-hmm. And then we ran around with beepers, and you got a number on there, and you found the phone somewhere, and you called back that number. You ran because your beeper was going off. And so things were different back then. So what I did in the past, one of the things that I would do in the past is I couldn't get at the front of the yellow pages because I was in a business that didn't, do much service, and I wanted to be in service, and I couldn't get to the front of the yellow pages. But what I could do is I could go through every yellow page and own every number that was disconnected because they didn't run their businesses properly and they went out of business. When 60% of the companies fail in the first 5 years, there's a lot of opportunity in the yellow pages, and you roll up all of those numbers and they're ringing at your office. So that's what I would do then. And so what I would do today is basically what we did at Sera. Is when we started BillyGo, again, we couldn't get to the front of the yellow pages, being the new yellow pages being Google. And I wasn't going to buy a company because it's not as great a story as me saying we started with one customer and never bought anyone, right? I could have bought a company and we could have started and grown another company like we did before, but we decided that we wanted to start at the very beginning with 0 customers. So what we did in this time was we knew that Google was the way to make it to the front to get the calls. And so we created something that would make the customer want to use us versus using everyone else that was in our space. And that's how the customer portal was built and designed from the very beginning, is to get our customers to do all their, when a customer calls in to Sera, you can actually be on that contractor's website while that phone call is taking place. And so you're booking more time on the website. And so as we went to 3 or 4 minutes per visit per customer on our website, when the industry standard is less than 30 seconds, less than 40 seconds, we immediately became relevant. Immediately, we became in the front of the book. And so we just took the modern version, the old way we did it, and then we just applied it to the new way we did it. So we're not changing, we're not creating things that had never existed before. It's not what we're doing here. We're just, what Landon and I do is we look at something like flat rate. Just take flat rate for an instance. We've had this discussion. Flat rate was a great invention, right? When it came out, and finally everybody jumped on it, and now we're seeing a lot of wealth or created from it. But still there's companies not making money on it, right? And so what Landon and I talk about is, okay, let's look at flat rate. What is it? What's the problems with flat rate? And then how do we dissect it and fix it? How do we actually extract information from a flat rate pricing model and turn it into something that actually turns into something that allows us to improve our business and get better at what we do? That's what we talk about every week. That's in a nutshell how we do it. And so something as simple as flat rate, from my work through the years of running my businesses, I came up with, margin pricing. Flat rate really is just a bundled up number that we come up with to start charging, where margin pricing is a line item in your financial statement. So if you can affect your margins, your prices using margins, you're going to affect your margin in your financial statement. It's a direct correlation of what I'm trying to improve. And you can ask just about any contractor, what's your labor cost? And they're going to say $400 an hour, or whatever they say their flat rate price is. But that is not the answer to the question I just asked. I just asked, what's your labor cost? And that number they don't know. And how could you not know something so important if you don't know what it actually costs you to go do something? Mm-hmm. And so we take and look at that and go, well, let's figure out how to find out. How do we find out what our labor cost is, and how do we apply it to our business so that we can positively affect the financial statements and positively affect our cash, more cash in the bank. That's all we do. That we just take every little thing and we dissect it and reconstruct it.
Love it.
But would you say that the easy way to find your labor costs is you just sign up for Sera and help find it right away?
Yep. It's actually so simple.
I'm not even going to dive into that. I want to go back to, there you go, sales.revealed. Just go ahead and find out your labor costs by joining Sera. No, to finish that question, Landon, how about you?
Oddly, I'm going to almost parrot some of Billy's stuff, but it's like he talked about efficiency, membership, all this stuff earlier, but it's like, get very lean. Like, you should know every key metric in your business, like down to your core. When it comes to like a challenging time with your business, it's like when you're facing having to lay somebody off, like when you're any challenging time in your business, if you don't know every key metric that drives your business, it's a sin that you're in business, right? Like if you're facing having to lay somebody off or not pay your vendors, and you don't know your business better than anybody else, why did you go into it? That's on you, right? So I would say make sure that you are absolutely lean. Make sure that you are performing at the optimal KPIs and every of the key metrics. Make sure that you have your productivity and efficiency just dialed in to a T. Make sure that you know what's going on. Like, whether this is in a terrible environment or a great environment, the people that win the day win it one call at a time. It's not, I think it's in the many billions of dollars of companies that I've overseen at this point. And it's you aggregate it together, it's one single call. What is happening in Mrs. Jones' house right now? Do you have visibility into the fact that you're 45 minutes into the call? We should have XYZ pictures uploaded. I should be game planning replacement options. We should have already had this conversation. Like, if you don't know what's happening right there, stop everything else that you're doing and figure that out. You should have visibility.
There's no magic. There's no magic pill, no silver bullet. You got to start at the basics. No matter what, you got to start at the basics. And I know right now, and any time you want to ask me stuff, this is how I dive into numbers. I love numbers. I love data. This is what I thrive on. I know that it costs me $1.01 per minute to run my company on a labor cost basis.
Per minute.
I know it down to the minute.
How much is that Canadian dollars?
About 100.
I don't know. But it's
Mexican pesos,
$1.
different conversation.
Yeah. It's a Timbits coffee, a double, and a donut.
Yeah, I don't know the Canadian dollar. I think it's pretty daggum close to $1 these days.
Sarah's not in Canada yet, so that's why it doesn't.
Not yet.
Not yet. In time.
Yeah, when instead of a quarter pounder with cheese, what is it, like a liter or something?
Liter of cola?
Whatever it is.
Goddamn liter of cola. All right. I love that. I love those principles there. And Thad, you can ask the next question here. But so search for opportunities from failing businesses. I love that. Billy, thank you so much for that tip. What is everyone else doing? And where are their shortcomings, right? You talked about that with the flat rate. Landon, getting lean, knowing your metrics, having the efficiency dialed in, and know your business inside and out down to the minute. What is the cost per job that you are doing right now? Cost per job, cost to run your business, cost to labor. Know your numbers inside and out. That was great. Thank you so much for that.
All right. My favorite part of the show, the random question generator. Billy knows what this is all about, but we're going to start with Landon. So Landon,
he's getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's getting uncomfortable. So this part of the show is a random question. We actually have 3 choices queued up. I actually personally have not even read these beforehand. So it is going to be completely random for me. We have 3. You don't get to know what they are. You just got to ask, do you want question 1, 2, or 3?
2.
What's the embarrassing story that your parents used to tell others about you?
Embarrassing story. I would say that it's probably in relationship to my cheapness. That back in when I was a freshman in high school, many years ago, they still had payphones where you put a quarter in the payphone, right? And so needed to call my parents to let them know when to pick me up. So I'd put the quarter in the payphone, and the phone stole my quarter. So I dialed the operator like 5 times to convince somebody. I was trying to get them to let me make a free call. And I was so irritated by it. They sent me a check in the mail for 25 cents. And so it's still still sitting up there. And that was the first time they noticed the level of cheapness that I had about me, which is why you guys are drinking out of glasses and I'm drinking out of used red cups.
Okay, I'm not even drinking my tequila. I'm drinking my uncle's. So did you ever? So like payphones, like if you ever find a payphone, they're pretty much obsolete. You can actually take a paper clip, and you could stick it underneath the blue part, like on the receiver where the cord goes into the handle. We used to prank call these all the time because the paper clip at the hockey arena. Yeah, that's Canadian, right? You take a paper clip and you stick it underneath where the receiver meets the head part, and you get it like underneath the red, and you bend it around. You touch into the phone part to touch the metal part, and you could actually make a call to anywhere that you wanted.
Huh.
There you go.
Well, that's scrappiness right there.
Man.
That's ingenuity.
Welcome to Canada.
We call it entrepreneur.
It ate your quarter, and meanwhile, I just never gave it a quarter.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I work for you.
I was a solid C student, I have you.
C's get degrees.
Billy, hey, C's to get degrees. C's get degrees. Well, I mean, sometimes D's. Actually, no, they didn't even. D's didn't even work
No.
for degrees. No, I had to get a C minus.
Yep.
That was the benchmark. Billy, question 1, 2, or 3.
I want 3.
You want 3. What does it mean to live a good life, in your opinion?
At this age, it's called health. Having your health.
See, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. And it's funny. I remember in one of the Facebook groups, they had asked a question around like, if you were to run, what is the one obstacle that's going to prevent you from running a $5 million business? And my answer was that it was health. Because if you don't feel good, you don't have the energy to be able to do the things that you need to do in order to get to 5 million.
I promise you, I am working harder than I've ever worked in my life. This building software company is not for the weak. It is a full-time job, and I enjoy it. I love working. That's my hobby. But I'm almost 60 years old, and I'm working harder than I've ever worked. I'm working like a 20-year-old at this point, but I love it. I love creating things. So that's what I like doing, and I like helping people. And so if I can keep my health, then I can do everything else. I can have a nice life. I can go places and see the world. All of it comes back to your health. Yep. I take my health over my wealth any day. Mm-hmm. It's no fun to have a little bit of money if you're too sick to enjoy it. So to me, it's health all the way.
So what's your number one biohack? How are you adding extra healthy years to your life?
Well, I exercise for one, for sure. I mean, I do it all the time. I eat, I think, pretty well for a Texan. I eat pretty good.
I love that caveat in there.
For a Texan.
For a Texan, I eat really, really well. Because, I don't eat chicken fried steak, but, once a month instead of every week.
I can attest, though, like sometimes I've we have this call that we kind of set up just to chat once a week, and sometimes he's just getting out of exercise, and you can hear the Richard Simmons video in the background. It's amazing.
At least it's not the get fit and have fun. Hal and John McLeod.
I mean, Billy's kind of at the age where he's the sit and be fit kind of guy. So
sorry, Landon, I'll get it back to you. I said I would just use it for a little while.
Be kind and rewind.
Yeah, there you go.
Really?
As you age, definitely it's all about health. You start realizing that, and you guys, as young as y'all are, you need to think about it as well. But yeah.
No, absolutely. I took
it allows me to do what I do.
Absolutely. I don't know if you guys have heard of Inside Tracker, but they do a blood test where they'll come out. In Canada, they have to come to your house to do it. In the States, you can either have them come to you or you can go to them and do a blood test. And they measure 43 different biomarkers, and they'll tell you what your bio age is, not just your chronological age, right? So chronologically, I'm 35. My bio age is 25. So my body is 10 years younger than what my physical age is or my actual age is.
And he'll never let anybody else
not know brag about that constantly.
This is how I get that info as well.
Right.
How does that work? How does that work at the bar on the weekends? It's like my biological age is 22.
Surprisingly well. Let's just say I'd be a hit at the single moms group that you go to.
Single Mom Saturday.
Awesome.
I do know that we're coming up on a hard stop for one of the gentlemen on the show, and I do want to I know that our last questions tend to get a little bit lengthy on this, but Evan, are there any final questions that you want to get into before we put in those two hard questions to these gentlemen?
No, I think the principles one really hit home in terms of what it is that everyone needs to do and like real actionable steps. that they need to take right now, if they haven't already. So go for it.
Yeah, you can't change the world in a day, but you can
Mm-mm.
start working on something and improve it by 5% and go move to something else. And if you just take that approach, because if
Yep.
you try to just sit there and like, oh, I got to do all this stuff, then you end up doing nothing.
Yep.
So just
Analysis
take that
paralysis.
5%. Yes, that's right. Just take one thing and go, okay, I'm going to take this thing right here and I'm going to improve it by 5%. And once you do that, you can decide if you want to go to 10% or move to the next thing and go to 5%. But just those little incremental changes make a big difference.
Yep.
That's all it takes. You can't do it all in a day. You can't do it all by yourself. Just do something, but just do something that matters. Spending money on shiny objects are not going to solve that problem. It gives you, it just increases your cost of running your business, because you got to pay for it monthly. That ARR, the MRR thing that you're paying for. We had an analogy earlier on another show that I wanted to bring up real quick about this, the money part of it. And the question I like to ask, since you asked me and Landon a question, I want to ask the two of y'all a question. So what's the difference of paying something once a month versus paying something every 30 days?
Depending on the pay cycle.
I'm going to say it's probably the difference of one extra payment a year. Is it close to
Technically, you're
that?
right, but it's
Yeah.
close to that. But let's look at it on a 30-day picture.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect example. Let's say that your rent on your building's $1,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? So on the 1st, you pay the $1,000. That's once a month, right? And then on January 1st, you pay the 1,000. February 1st, you pay 1,000. But
So
every
on and so
30 days, I paid it twice. In that 30-day time period, I actually had to come up with the money 2 times.
Right.
Mm.
And so everything that we buy that costs something per month to run our business, you're paying for it every 30 days 2 times. And so looking at your business from that angle will help you realize that if you don't understand gross profits and gross margins, you're never going to get ahead of that. And that's why it's super important that you learn how to read financials, which we help every client that comes on Sera. We teach them how to read their financials. And the thing about it is knowing that to make a business profitable, it needs to be able to pay everything twice in 30 days and then have money left over. And you figure that out, then you're going to be fine.
Well, so I heard something, and I don't know the exact month, but keeping cash on hand in Microsoft keeps, I can't remember if it was 12 or 18 months cash on hand to pay operating expenses. And you think about Microsoft and the size of their business to keep 12 to 18 months of cash on hand. And I'm using 12 to 18 because I don't remember the exact number on what it was. Looking at an HVAC business, for example, would you recommend that same dollar amount, 12 to 18 months? Is there a set number that you would think that they should keep cash on hand to be able to essentially pay it twice in a month?
I think first and foremost, the first thing to do is get yourself in the month. And that's how you
Right.
pay twice a month, right? Is you got to get yourself in the month first, because what we do now is we push everything off. Like if you buy materials and then it's due net, on the 10th of the following month, right? You're unfortunately, we're buying it with the money we made between the 1st and the 10th, not the money we made while we actually sold it.
Right.
And, sold that stuff, right? That's the problem that I'm trying to explain here is you got to be able to use the money that you made the prior month when you sold that thing to pay for that thing on the 10th of the next month. And to do that, you need to know what your margins are. You need to know what your pricing should be. You should absolutely know what your labor costs are. All these things, you should know what they are so that you can get yourself what I can call in the month. So once you get yourself in the month, then I highly recommend that you create more cash flow for yourself by keeping cash on hand. I personally we keep anywhere from 3 to 4 months of cash, because the beauty of our businesses are we get paid cash every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I don't I don't feel the need to keep that much cash in the business. I'd rather, like we do at BillyGo, we give back 20% of our cash back to our employees. You know, we don't pay spiffs, we don't pay bonuses, we don't do any of that stuff. But we do is we take and we put 20% of our profits and we give it back to all the employees, which is way more than paying, you know, a spiff or a bonus or things like that, because every single person in the company gets a huge amount of money. I think this year is like $5,100 on the average for every single person in the business. And so we don't keep a lot of cash on hand. We always keep 3 payrolls in the payroll account, right? And then we keep the cash that we need, but we're in the month. So that changes everything. I have a surplus of cash at the end of every single month because I'm in the month. Whereas if I was paying for that stuff that's due on the 10th, on the money that I made on the 9th and the 10th, or, you know, then I can't keep any money on hand because I don't have any to keep on hand. And by getting myself in the month and using wise debt, there's 2 kinds of debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt, right? And using debt wisely is the vehicle that you want to have more than having cash on hand, right? You want your cash working for you, doing something. You want to, if you're sitting in a checking account, it's not earning you money. You know, I went and bought properties with my money when I made money, and I doubled down on properties during the recession. You know, that's the stuff that I would do with my cash. So I always keep my cash working for me, because a dollar properly invested can make more money than you can make. There's only one you. So, but there's lots of dollars that can do lots of things. And so that's the mindset we want to help all of our clients get into, is let's get you first in the month. And before we start talking about keeping cash on hand, because if you're keeping cash on hand, you got some big bad debt over here that allowed you to have that cash, because you're not in the month. You definitely don't have the money for real.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
A lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm in Billy's camp. Technically speaking, from like if you sell your business to a PE group, there's like a formula called a net working capital requirement that's you know, financial calculation that says this is how much is required on a go forward basis. But depending on your risk tolerance, it's 3 to 6 months is kind of what people say. I'm more of a 6-month guy because my risk tolerance is less. This is again why I work for you. But that 6 months now, I'm more of a 6 months guy than ever before, based on what's happening with the debt markets, right? So it's the free money has gone away. It's more difficult to invest right now, but there's going to be opportunities. So I want to be able to leverage the opportunity with my cash, and you know, it's hard to acquire debt right now. So you know, when debt's cheap, it's easier to keep, you know, very little cash on hand. So 3 to 6 months, I'm more 6 right now.
There you go. And do you see yourself getting down to 3 in
in a
12 to 18 months when the conditions are right?
Man, 12 to 18 months. We'll see. I hope so. I think it's going to be a little bit longer than that. We'll see what happens with the next election cycle. But
you keep buying all the way down.
That's right.
It goes back to that.
Why guess where the bottom is, right?
That's it.
Right?
And so, like people, that's the other thing I would say. Anybody that you know, I've always played the same game. Build your business with the intent to sell it tomorrow, like as fast as you can, and then don't sell it unless the conditions are right for you to sell it, right? Correct. But every single, like, if the conditions are right, the people in the last 3 to 5 years we've made more, like we're drunken sailors at this point, like crazy levels of money poured into our space, and we've gone over the edge. Now we're going on the downward slide, but still like crazy valuations, right? So if you had the foresight to like build your business to sell it in the last 3 to 5 years, you did really well. If you're still hanging on, trying to maximize, like I've seen so many people hang on, miss the opportunity, and go right back down, right? So like always, if you don't have a plan to sell your business in the next couple of years, text me, call me, email me, message me. You have to have it. It's like it's a non-starter to not have that. You don't have to sell it, but you have to be ready to do it.
Right. Well, that was like a T. Harv Eker thing was, what's the point of building a business? To sell it. And if that's your mentality going into it, you're going to make decisions differently. And that's the point. Even if you hang on to it, who cares? That's you. Great. You build it with that intent, you make certain decisions, and that's what drives your business.
But the thing about it is, if you build it to sell it, now you're in charge of your own decision, your own destiny.
100%.
You can decide to sell it, not sell it. Now you're not in. When you're in the driver's seat, now you're in creating opportunity for yourself. I didn't have to sell my business. I could have kept it just as well, right? It's putting yourself in a position to go, yeah, I could, but I won't. All right. Or you know what? I think I'll do it. I'm tired. I'm ready to go to the beach, whatever.
The best time to sell is when you don't have to.
Right.
That's right. And I'll say this, even when I sold a majority share into my business to get this PE firm thing going, we had $0 of debt. Not one single dollar of debt in the business, because we ran such an efficient business that we didn't even need the debt. I had debt buying buildings and stuff, but I had a cash cow that, would allowed me to do this. And this is how you should be running your business.
I love it. Just have more options.
Yeah.
I love it.
So Landon did say text, call him, or email him. We only have his Facebook. So facebook.com/Landon.Brewer.5. We'll put these in the show notes for later.
I didn't even know that. Now I can find myself.
No, I found it as we were doing the, of course, he also did drop this. Let me just see if I can save that really quickly. LandonBrewer@gmail.com to get in touch with him. Of course, if you want to get in touch with Billy at Sera.tech. Or you can find them on Facebook, facebook.com/SeraSystems, or just their website, Sera.tech. We do have the group, the Service Einstein group. It's a long ass number. We'll put that in the show notes for later. Don't worry, I'm not going to read that out. So as we wrap up, Billy, you're actually not going to get the last question today. We're only going to ask it to Landon because you're going to be prepared for it, and that takes all the fun out of it. So
That's right.
Landon, our last question of the show.
Okay.
What is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but don't?
How big is your bank account? Let's see. I would say, man, what's one question? How about this? Why HVAC?
Okay, well, why HVAC?
I don't know. I didn't answer the question. Let's see.
Okay, let's go with the first one. How big is your bank account?
Why HVAC? So I kind of alluded to it, I guess. For 15 years, I was kind of doing this, like the whole goal was to like when I started, the goal was to build the world's largest home service company and like to become, the next, millionaire from consolidation, right? So it's been 20 some odd years that I've been focused on doing that. And I never thought that like once I actually got into the operations and doing it and working with the people that like I would actually enjoy it. I just thought it's just a means to an end. And so I got in and left the suit and tie behind and got in and started working in the branches and building the branches and, different positions in the business. And it's like the greatest people in the world, the salt of the earth people. I've had people that came from absolutely nothing that have just done such amazing things with their lives that like you just watch more people transform doing this than you ever would at Morgan Stanley or whoever I worked for before this, right? And sometimes that used to be my joke, like dumb shit would happen every day, like this guy can't come in because he got drunk and shot his wife in the eye with a firecracker last night, and he's got to answer for that. Like dumb stuff, right? And so I would always say like, I never should have left Morgan Stanley. But, jokingly, I would say that because all of the amazingly good stuff in our industry that I've got to witness, all of my friends that have just like done so fantastically well that I never thought would be anything like this. Like just the people that have a kid that was 20 years old when I met him, and I put him in a Costco store generating leads. He followed me around from business to business. He would come in the weekends and listen to me. I taught him every aspect of the business. He became our best sales guy. So he's making like $300,000 a year right now. And he moved from his twins in his mom's 1-bedroom apartment to owning a house, car. Like it's stuff like that. It's like, this is the greatest thing that I've ever done. And I love it.
It's truly satisfying industry. It's just amazing to watch so many cool things happen and so many unbelievable stories. And that's why I do my Saturday morning, thing on Facebook, where I write about something that happened in my past. And there's so many of those stories that I could just keep going on and on and on, and how they led me to the next thing or whatever it did. But yeah, I've had those firecracker in the face stories as well. So it's just part of running one of these bits. Yeah.
And I love those Saturday morning stories, by the way.
I was going to say, I love those videos of people getting hit in the face with a firecracker. So
that too.
Seen far too many of those. Awesome. This show's been great, guys. I know I missed the beginning of it because, well, fucking internet and computers and everything just crashed. Everything just went black. I was like, what the fuck?
For once, it wasn't me.
It wasn't you. And in Canada too. Weird.
Right.
I guess it's too cold outside, but thank you so much, guys, for coming on. Thank you so much for dropping some knowledge, helping the industry in a massive, massive way. Both of you doing such an amazing job of that and giving back after you've had so much success yourselves. Now giving back to so many people and helping them get through what is next in the industry. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Awesome.
Of course.
Thanks,
and
guys.
until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, 2 quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of the show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.